Welcome to the Idea Talks, where we discuss big ideas. The Idea Talks is a bi-weekly podcast with Josh Tice and other leaders on big ideas for life, leadership, and ministry. And I'm your co-host, Drew Planencia, and we are glad you're here. For more information on this podcast, visit ideanetwork.church.
Today's big idea is all about church planting and that you don't have to do it on your own. That's right, we're joined by Kevin Ezell of Send Network. Hey man, this is the part of the episode where we're supposed to advertise my book.
All right.
So what do you think we should say?
I don't feel bad about it. It's not a shameless plug. It's literally your book. You've put a lot of work into it.
That's a good point. So you need to pick up a copy. And hey, here's the thing. If you buy a copy and you didn't like it,
right,
Drew said he'll pay for you to ship it back.
It's not what I said. At least an In-N-Out burger, I'll ship to them.
You'll ship them.
If it's on the East Coast, it'll be all spoiled, but it's fine. Hey, I'm in this book too.
You are. You're actually in this book. And I say some things that people don't know about you. It's going to be great. I tell some stories.
All right. Where can people find this book at?
Oh, that's right.
And what it's called.
Okay, so you can pick up this book.
Right.
It's called The Quest for Friendship.
The Quest for Friendship. Insert Galleon's music here.
That really is what it is.
Right. It's happening right now as we speak.
The Idea Network publishing arm of our network has produced this awesome resource, and I really do appreciate it. It's exciting. It really is a discussion of friendship, and I want you to pick up a copy at ideanetwork.church in the shop tab. It's the very first resource at the very top. You can pick it up, and if you put in the promo code free shipping is yours.
All right.
Yeah.
There it is.
You'll do it now.
The Quest for Friendship. Welcome to this edition of the Idea Talks. On today's episode, we have a very special guest with us, Kevin Ezell from the North American Mission Board. Kevin, thanks for joining us. We're really happy to have you on our podcast.
Hey, honored to be a part of it. Appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, Kevin, we've just gotten to know each other over the last few months, and man, I love your passion for church planting. And the more we talked about church planting with our mutual friends, I thought, man, I got to get Kevin on the podcast. Our listeners love the gospel. Our listeners love international evangelism. Our network loves church revitalization. But there is a passion for church planting within the Idea Network. So many of our guys are church planters. So many of them, some of our ladies are church planting. There's an excitement about church planting across the United States right now. And the more I spoke with you, I thought, what a kindred spirit. And I thought, let's get you on the podcast and talk about your passion for church planting. So could you, since you might be new to a lot of our network, would you introduce yourself a little bit more and describe your passion for church planting?
Sure. I'm president of the North American Mission Board, and we have a part of that, Send Network, that is the largest church planting network in North America. We plant hundreds of churches all over North America. We like to say we're like eHarmony, go church planting. We're trying to connect churches with planters and planters with churches. And we really just stay focused on that. We look in all the major cities, but really we plant churches everywhere for everyone. Now, 55% of the churches we plant are non-Anglo. And so it's very diverse as well. But we try to make church planting, if it makes sense for a church, just to hit the easy button and say, look, we can assess a planter, we can train them, we can help coach them, we can take care of them, and we even help fund them. They come alongside a church, but we know that churches plant churches, not the North American Mission Board or a network. Churches do that. We've read the book of Acts several times, and it's very clear. So that's one part of what we do at the North American Mission Board. But a primary focus of most of our relationships is through church planting.
That's awesome, and I think it's noble of you guys and the network that you've created there. You try to make it easy for folks that want to have a passion and a calling in their lives to do that. So that's awesome.
Well, there's nothing more fun. I just was in Pittsburgh yesterday, and 5 years ago, I drove around with the planters I knew in Pittsburgh, that we knew of in Pittsburgh, and we searched. There were two, and we drove around in one car and had lunch in one booth at a restaurant. Yesterday, I met with 25, 5 years later. And it's just so, what I was seeing is the flywheel really began to work. The multiplication pipeline, you'd say, or planter pipeline, where churches that plant churches that plant churches, that's the way we're going to reach North America.
Okay, so you're really leaning into a territory that really excites me. And something that I'm noticing with the Idea Network and a lot of other people, every time I look around, it seems that we're in the midst of a modern day church planting renaissance. What do you think about that? Do you see church planting just thriving, or is that just my unique perspective sitting here in Las Vegas and hearing anecdotal stories?
No, absolutely. It is. That's a good way of describing it. It absolutely is. To give you an example, I mean, last year obviously was a pandemic year. We were looking like when people tell you not to gather, not to do all the things you do to plant churches. Yeah, we planted 586 churches last year, and in the midst of a pandemic. And what we found is, people are they're open to the gospel. It's all about the gospel. It's just some of the baggage they've carried from churches in the past, and that's what they're not as keen or excited about. But they're very excited about the gospel and very open. And it's amazing. City after city after city. I was in Albuquerque just a week ago. Same thing, talking to planners about planting. People are very open to the gospel, especially now. And it's just very important for us to make the very most of this. It's a unique time, and we have got to make the most of the opportunity to multiply.
I love the perspective, and especially, even during a pandemic year, God's still at work, right? He's still advancing his cause.
Right.
That's awesome to hear you're partnering with people who, are called to do that. So question for you, what is exactly Send Network?
Well, we wanted to create a network where pastors of existing churches that have a passion for planting would have a home. And it was a home, a sense of brotherhood for planters who desire to step out and plant anywhere in North America. And so it's really a place for pastors of existing churches and planters who have a passion for planting. It's more of a brotherhood. And that's what's exciting. I met with 25 from Pittsburgh yesterday. I could fly you right now anywhere in North America, and we can meet with 25. We go to Boston, I meet with 60 or 70. We've been doing really well in Boston. So that's the fun of it. And I told those planners, you're not planning alone. We have your back, and it's one thing for a sending church to be there, but to have a whole national family, if you will, to be there behind you. It's just incredible to see God's people come together. We are stronger together, and I'm sure you have churches that are part of the podcast and part of the Idea family that could do this on their own. They really could. But we tell churches like that, you can do one on your own. You may be really strong. You can do 2 or 3 or 4 on your own. But with a partnership, we can help what you could do, say 2 or 3, we could turn that into 5 or 6. I mean, you got a limited amount of time on this earth. We need to plant as many churches as we can, reach as many people as we possibly can. And it's all about multiplication and doing, trying to expand this as fast as we possibly can to simply reach people.
Yeah, boy, this speaks my language. I look at my life. I'm 40 years old. We planted a church here in Las Vegas 16 years ago. And I look at my life and I think, okay, I've got a solid 20 or so years here before I move into a fourth quarter ministry, whatever that might be. Over the next 20 years, it's going to go by like that. How many churches are we going to be able to plant? What kind of a kingdom impact can we make? How can I find the biggest millstone and throw it in a pond and make the biggest wave possible for the kingdom of God? And that is working together with those who have the same passion that I do. This is one of the things that I've seen beautifully done, played out with one of my dear friends, one of the guys that we mentored here at Southern Hills. His name is Akeem Smith. Akeem Smith got saved and baptized at our church, discipled at our church, sent off to Bible college from our church, back from Bible college, sent off to seminary, back. He came as an intern. Now he was an intern for us. Our church is in love with Akeem and Jamie Smith. God called him to church planting. And the question is, where is he going to go? Oakland, California. How is he going to get there? We don't know. And Send Network came alongside us and helped us, help them as they planted in Oakland. And man, I found that story over and over and over, Kevin. My good friend Kirk, who is in the Midwest, right there in Cincinnati, and Kirk Kirkland, and what God is doing there with him and Send Network, and my buddy Dave, and then up in Reno with Jonathan Fountain, and just so many of my good friends who have already connected and have been so blessed by Send Network. So I guess that leads to my next question. For those who are kind of new to this concept, and also new to you, Kevin, how can the Send Network help American church planters?
Well, several ways. One, we help assess, so that helps identify what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and helps expose some challenges they may have down the road. It does a 360 where it examines their relationship. I mean, our assessments, we bring in a psychiatrist to help, a psychologist to help walk through the process. There's a lot of elements there. So I think that's really one of the best, if not the best, in North America. We really are thankful for it, and it helps on the front end. We also help with ongoing training and coaching, and help connect a sense of brotherhood, to partner with people who are going through the exact same struggles in your own city or other cities. We try to get planners, instead of thinking about planting a church, focus on reaching a city. Plant a church that plants a church that plants a church. And then what we also do is we want to develop a planner pipeline. We could plant 100 more churches next year if we had enough high capacity planners. So we want to set up residencies, in churches like yours. And we want to set up as many as you can produce. If that be 1 or 2 or 3, I have Akeem's, going all over North America. And so it's, again, our focus is on multiplication. We try to find where there's a fire, if you will, and then throw gas on it. And that's where we don't plant churches. We come alongside churches that have a passion to do it, and we help them multiply themselves exponentially. And that's where we can help planners. And also there's protections. We have a large loan fund where we come in and we give loans to planners that can't get, commercial loans. And just like this week, we're buying a synagogue in Brooklyn, New York, for $3.6 million. Most planners can't do that kind of thing. But we're going in there, buying the synagogue and putting one of our best churches in that. I mean, it's hard to find properties in these major cities. I'm buying another one in Chicago tomorrow for 1.3. We have the ability to do that, and then churches can finance it back, at 0% and 1% too. We just make it fit them and help them get down the road much faster than they could do on their own.
You talk about that assessment process. I had never been through that in my plant, and many of my friends who had not. And then we allowed Akeem and Jamie Smith to go through that process as they planted from here. And I got to tell you, Kevin, what an amazing process. At first, whenever I approached the assessment process with Akeem and Jamie as their pastor, I thought, okay, what kind of superfluous information is this? What kind of a waste of time? I mean, I'm being blunt. And I'm sorry. I know you were the one that created it, but I didn't know you at the time. And I thought, man, what is going on? It's going to waste our time. We got to get out there. Souls are dying and going to hell. We got to plant a church. And that assessment process, wow. The ability to say, okay, Akeem and Jamie, by the way, I have the permission to be speaking of them in this way. They love all of this. Akeem, where are you in your relationship? Akeem and Jamie, where are you in your training? Where are you in your age? Where are you when it comes to your raising of support? Where are you when it comes to your support from your home church, from your home pastor, from your friends, from your family? That assessment process that was done, what I love, by other church planters and other pastors. Wow, that prepared them like nothing. And it actually hesitated them. I should say delayed them from planting their church, which was a frustration to me at first until I realized the assessment was right. It put them in a better time frame and a better timetable to plant the church more successfully in Oakland. And then that story was repeated over and over, Kevin, as I spoke to other friends who went through the assessment process with Send Network. I really do like that process. And I do think when I say, what is one of the things Send Network can do to help planters, I really do think that assessment process might seem like an obstacle, but it's actually one of the greatest fuels to help your fire.
Right. It can help you learn more about yourself, about your marriage, about your ministry skills. And so often we get so busy in ministry, we don't want to stop and evaluate ourselves and confront some brutal facts about who we are and what we really need. And then also it helps kind of set the agenda for what's the best coaching and training moving forward. And the beautiful thing about this, and I'm just so grateful to be able to watch it, is planners are helping planners, all the way through this process. And you're doing it together and not alone. And again, I go back to the group I was with yesterday. Man, they were just celebrating with each other what happened the last few weeks, being Easter and the week after. And But they were one big family charging against this city and creating that sense of brotherhood and not feeling so alone in some of these cities. Salt Lake City, or I mean, I could go on and on. Up in Montreal and Toronto are some of our strongest cities. But they do it together, and that's the beauty of this. There's just no need to do it alone, and we want to provide a brotherhood to help do that.
So there are church planters out there, young guys. Maybe they're in their late teens, early 20s. Maybe they're in their 20s or their early 30s, and they're thinking, I really want to plant a church. This is how Send Network can help. And we've just scratched the surface. But there's another entirely different group of people, Kevin, that are listening to this, right, Drew? And those are people that are currently in my stage or your stage. They're leaders within the church. They're a bit middle-aged, I hate to admit it, and they have a passion for church planting, but hey, it's not going to be me planting. I want to plant as many churches as possible. So, Kevin, how can the Send Network help established churches like us plant more churches?
Yeah, well, we tell the church we talk to, the very first step, the very simple step, it doesn't cost you any money. That's people's fear is we can't afford it. We're not big enough. The first thing is you can pray for a planter. Just start with praying. It's free, easy, and very neat. Where you adopt a planter, say a King would be a good one in Oakland, or you adopt a city that you pray for, and we have a Pray for Planters website. You go there, you sign up, and we'll send them some gift from that city. It'd be a ball hat with Send Network on it, from say an Oakland or a Pittsburgh or whatever it might be. And just a prayer reminder to pray for a planter. So you pray, that's the first step. The second step is to participate or provide. And that would be where you actually go on a mission trip, maybe, or you go and experience a worship service and just be a part of that church so you can get a real visual idea of what you're praying for. And then some choose to provide. That's where they provide the financing to help that church begin to launch. But there's no pressure there. We just encourage people to start with prayer. Any church can pray. A church of 7 can pray, for a planter and engage.
Well, Kevin, we really appreciate you being on with us today. I mean, within your tribe, we know that you're very influential and you're very helpful in a lot of ways. And I know you always kind of shake your head at that, but you really are very helpful to a lot of people. And in our tribe, you kind of be new to a lot of our folks. And I'm really hoping that those in the Idea Network would get to know you and your ministry, your passion for church planting in Send Network.
Kevin, what's the best way, for our listeners to try to stay in contact with you, or if they want to find out more about the Send Network, how can they find out more?
Sure. Just feel free to call Josh at home any night after 6 or you simply NAMB.net. SendNetwork.com is one of the easiest ways, but or NAMB, NAM.net. And it just simply, we've actually had 4th graders get on there to see if they can navigate it. And if you just go NAM.net, click on church planting, and it'll simply walk you through it. If you're a pastor or a planner or anything at all you want to do, you go to NAMB.net.
Well, thanks for sharing for that, Kevin. And thanks for all that you're doing for the cause of Christ and just helping these church planters in such a vital need, not only in America right now, but the world. So thanks for being on the podcast. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for inspiring me and our ministry here in Las Vegas. And we've always had a passion for church planting. But what's really cool is you're helping me kind of put my mind around the plan, not just the passion, but the plan for church planting. As many people as possible, like we said, making the biggest impact for the kingdom of God in the limited time that we possibly have.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks so much. I cannot wait to see all God's going to do through your church and hopefully through Send Network in cities all over North America.
Thanks so much for listening to today's Idea Talks. If you would like to reach out to us, drop us an email at joshtice@ideanetwork.church. If you benefited from this podcast, we ask that you take a moment to show your support by subscribing, rating, and reviewing the podcast on iTunes. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you right here again at the Idea Talks podcast.